The country is located in Oceania, in the Pacific Ocean, specifically in the largest sub-region known as Polynesia. Shaped like a triangle starting in New Zealand and going up to Hawaii and ending in Easter Island, Polynesia has over 1,000 islands and archipelagos, covering millions of square kilometers of the ocean territory. Samoa, though, is located halfway between New Zealand and Hawaii, sandwiched between Tuvalu and Tonga. The independent nation of Samoa is different from the US overseas territory of American Samoa, which sits at the shortest distance of less than 160 kilometers away. The most amazing fact between these two islands is that they are literally divided by the international dateline, which means they share the same time of day but are exactly 24 hours apart, with American Samoa living in yesterday and Samoa living in tomorrow. Technically, you can go into the future or the past within a quick 35-minute flight. In this video, we will be exploring about an ancient form of navigation native to the Polynesian Islands. Imagine sailors setting sail from Taiwan in a canoe to an unknown island thousands of kilometers away in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a body of water that covers more than 160 million square kilometers, greater than all the land masses on Earth combined. For thousands of years, Polynesian navigators managed voyages like this without the help of modern navigational aids. Ancient Polynesians used the sun, moon, stars, planets, ocean currents, and clouds as guides that allowed them to see the ocean as a series of pathways rather than an obstacle. It is said that their voyages began around 1500 BC, when the people who set sail from Southeast Asia found the islands of Polynesia. Some historians believe that voyagers moved from place to place to avoid overpopulation. Others say that they were driven by war. Voyagers relied on sturdy double-hulled boats, which were powered by sails and steered with a single large oar. Canoe building involved the entire community, bringing together navigators, canoe builders, priests, chanters, and hula dancers. This shows that rather than functioning in a nuclear way where individuals largely fend for themselves, life in Samoa is all about being part of a larger community that looks after each other. Samoan values and this communal way of thinking means the people are extremely friendly. These navigators were keen observers of the natural world. They were abundantly familiar with trade winds, generated ocean swells, which typically flew northeast or southeast. By day, navigators could identify direction by the rocking motion of their canoes caused by the swells, otherwise called waves. But during the sunrise and sunset, these were more useful as the sun's position could direct them to which direction is east or west. At night, navigators use something called celestial navigation. This technique used the stars, the moon, and other celestial bodies to calculate their position. It is very useful on the open ocean, where there are no landmarks. They memorized the rising and setting points of the stars and the constellations at different times of the year. And they used to divide the sky into 4 quadrants, subdivided into 32 houses with the canoe in the middle. So for example, when they saw a specific star rising from the ocean, they knew that would be northeast. They had some other tricks too. The Earth's axis points directly towards the North Star. So called because there is only one fixed point in the sky and it will always indicate north. However, the North Star is not visible from the south of the equator. So these navigators there used a constellation called the Southern Cross and some extra mental tricks to estimate where south is. For example, if we draw a line through these two stars and extend it 4.5 times and draw another line from there to the horizon, that is south. NASA and other space agencies continues to use this celestial navigation for many of their missions outside the Earth's atmosphere. The astronauts and engineers of the Apollo space program used a similar kind of celestial navigation to chart their way to the moon and back. The Mars Exploration Rover also used celestial navigation to communicate information back to the engineers and researchers on Earth. But the sky also provided way more navigational aids. For example, the clouds. High masses of clouds could indicate mountainous islands. Once navigators came close to their destination, other clues such as flight patterns of birds, floating debris or vegetation, or different types of fish in the area helped them determine the proximity of land. This form of navigation is beautifully described in the Disney film Moana.
Uros, the floating island in Peru. The Uros Islands are a group of 70 man-made Totora reed islands floating on Peru's Lake Titicaca. The base of this island is made up of large pallets of Totora roots. The Uros cut these roots in a piece of 3 meter by 10 meter. They then anchor the collected Totora blocks with nylon ropes attached to wooden sticks to fix them to the bottom of the lake. These dense roots that the plants develop and interweave form a natural layer called kili, which is about 1 to 2 meter thick. Let us now have a look on how this island floats. After 1.5 to 2 years of growing, the Totoro roots are ready to leave the ground naturally and starts to float due to the gases expelled by the roots. During this period, the Uros go to the Totorals area to cut the roots in pieces for making the islands. As we all know, for any object to float in a fluid, the density of that object should be less than the density of the fluid. Here, due to the presence of gases in the roots, the density of the roots becomes lesser than that of the water and it floats on the surface of the lake. Since the roots are hard and capable of holding weights, a collection of such roots together provide best foundation for the island. The bottom layers of the reed covering rot away quickly, so new reeds are added to the top constantly. During the dry seasons, the process of maintenance is carried out once a month. The reeds rot faster during the rainy season, so the maintenance process takes place once in a week. With proper maintenance, after 30 to 40 years, the island decays and the Uros abandon it and make a new one. These old islands turn into new Totorals.
Earthquake Island. Zalzala Kho, or the Earthquake Island, was a small island off the coast of the port city of Gwadar, Balochistan, Pakistan, which appeared on 24 September 2013 following an earthquake. Zalzala Kho may be a mud volcano located in the Arabian Sea offshore of Gwadar in Balochistan, Pakistan. It rose out of water during a 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck the same province on 24 September 2013. You all might be wondering what a mud volcano is. So basically, a mud volcano or mud dome is a landform created by the eruption of mud or slurry along with water and gases. Several geological processes may cause the formation of mud volcanoes.
At least 50 people have been killed, over 200 injured by a powerful earthquake that hit Pakistan's Balochistan province. The magnitude 7.8 quake struck at a depth of 15 kilometers, around 100 kilometers southwest of the city of Huzdar. Tremors have also been felt as far away as the Indian capital, Delhi. Powerful aftershocks have
On
later hit the
24th
entire
September
region.
2013,
Reports say the communications
a major
system
strike
was
slip
damaged in the
earthquake
area.
rattled western
Iran
Pakistan,
rescuers to its region.
killing at least 350 people and leaving more than 100,000 homeless. The 7.7 magnitude quake struck the Balochistan province of northwestern Pakistan.
Earthquake ripped through southern Pakistan today. At least 46 people were killed, many others injured. The quake had a depth of about 9 miles, and it was so powerful it created a new island. A mass 30 to 40 feet high emerged from the ocean, which you actually see right there. I mean, this is just incredible to actually get to see something like this. Many millions of people live in the area, so it is incredible
Amidst
that more of them
the
were not
destruction,
killed and considered
a new
possible.
island was created offshore in Padizir, that is the West Bay, near Gwadar, Pakistan. It was called the Earthquake Island or the Zalzala Cove. The formation of this island was a mystery, as islands were only
In
formed
the last
due to
100 years,
volcanic activity.
Kavachis emerged.
Scientists warned
The surface is a mixture of mud, fine sand, and solid rock, and was a prime location for fishermen of Pakistan. The island is really just a big pile of mud from the seafloor and just got pushed, said Bill Banhart, a geologist at the US Geological Survey who studies earthquake in Pakistan and Iran. This island was expected to vanish off within months.
And when they lit cigarettes, the fumes caught fire. Islands like these can remain for longer periods, but most eventually disappear.
The mystery behind the island boggled a lot of scientists and geologists. They started their quest to this mystery. The research found that the island was inflammable. Bill Banhart stated that this island of the world seems to see so many of the features because the geology is correct for their formation. You need a shallow buried layer of pressurized gas, that is methane, carbon dioxide or something else, and fluids. When that layer becomes disturbed by seismic waves like an earthquake, the gas and the fluids become buoyant and rush to the surface, bringing the rock and mud along with them. Seismic waves from the quake likely cause some fluid material under the seafloor to expand, Banhart said. The crust holding that pressurized fluid ruptured and mud spewed up. The whole process is similar to liquefaction, Banhart said, which is when the seismic waves turn normally solid layers of soil into a flowing fluid, often with a disastrous result for the building and people above. As said previously, the life of this island was likely to be short. The underground pocket of the gas will cool, compress, or escape over time, allowing the crust to collapse and settle back down. Waves, storms, and tidal action from the Arabian Sea will also wash away the loose sand, soft clay, and mud. Banhart says such islands usually last a few months to a year before sinking back below the waterline. But fortunately, the island lasted for 3 more years. By the end of 2016, the island had completely disappeared. This was due to the compressing of the methane gas or cooling down of the methane gas, as said by Banhart.
Canada is a country in the northern part of North America. Its 10 provinces and 3 territories extend from the Atlantic to the Pacific and northward into the Arctic Ocean, covering 9.98 million square kilometers. making it the world's second largest country by total area. Let us now further see what are the rare and unknown facts about an island which is located in this very beautiful country. Diavik Diamond Mine is an industrial complex set in a remote subarctic landscape. It consists of 4 kimberlite pipes associated with the Lac de Grasse kimberlite field and is located on an island 20 square kilometers in Lac de Grasse, informally known as East Island. It is about 220 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. The Diavik Diamond Mine is a diamond mine in the North Slave region of the Northwest Territories, Canada, about 300 kilometers northeast of Yellowknife. The people residing near the Diavik Diamond Mine Islands also describe the diamonds extracted from this area as ice made from ice. There is also a conspiracy that gems are located beneath the frozen lakes of this island.